G'day guys, and welcome back to the Setting Our Car Class podcast. I'm your host, 18-time Australian champion David Serra, and today I'm looking at how to check your chain tension. Now, when it comes to chains, I find they're wearing out a lot faster than what they previously were. That could be down to the quality of the actual chain. It could be that we're getting faster and faster engines now. We're doing more testing on the track or more practicing. So a lot of those factors are wearing out things a lot faster. So what's happening is, if we're not on top of the chain tension, we're going to find that we've got too much slack in that chain and we might have more mechanical failures, or just the performance of our kart and engine isn't up to scratch. Now, when it comes to our low performance categories, so whether that's 4-stroke karts, our cadet karts, you can have a little bit more slack in that chain because there's just less speed, less power to really try and flick that chain off. So as a general rule, when it comes to, say, our mini rock karts, which is our Vortex 60cc engines, with the chain, once it's all fitted up and you're basically moving your fingers up and down to see how tight that chain is, we like it to just about touch or just touching the front chain guard. So the little black chain guard that goes onto the engine, not the rear chain guard, but the front chain guard, the chain can just touch that. And then basically it seems quite loose, but like I said, if your chain tension is too tight, especially in those low performance categories, it's just sucking out the horsepower of the engine. So you potentially might have less mechanical faults with a tighter chain. If it's too tight, it's just literally going to just drag down the engine. You can have no acceleration and no top speed as well. When it comes to our faster karts, we need to have a little bit tighter on the chain. But again, you need it to probably move, I'm just trying to move my fingers as I'm recording this podcast, probably about 1.5 centimeters to 2 centimeters in slack. So again, it needs to have a little bit of forgiveness. Again, if it's too tight, especially in a high performance class, it's almost going to snap the chain. So play around as you're spinning the kart, maybe in 3 spots as you're spinning the rear tire to check the chain tension, that it's quite even across the board. When it comes to our faster classes, say X30 tag, you can actually use an O-ring chain and they're much more durable. And also they don't need as much slack in the chain because as they heat up throughout a session, they tend to loosen up a lot more. So if you're using an O-ring chain, it will feel a little bit tighter. That's just the nature of that style of chain, but it can't be as slack as the normal chains that we use, whether it's a DID or an arcade chain. Different brands are out there compared to an O-ring chain. Now, another way to see whether your chain is just toast, like it's worn out, is that if you have the chain fitted onto the front and rear sprockets, if you try and put 2 fingers on the back sprocket or on the chain where the back sprocket is, and you're trying to pull it back, if it's almost coming off the sprocket, it's definitely stretched. It's too loose. So no matter what you do, if you try and fix the tension of the chain's just worn out. So as you're driving, it's going to have a lot more slack and it's going to be sucking out a little bit of power out of the engine as well. So as long as it just pulls back ever so slightly, that's okay. If you're sort of finding that you can almost remove from the sprocket, way too worn out. Another way is with the chain, once it's removed from the kart, if you're holding your hands around the chain at either end and you're basically trying to push it up or push it down, so you basically really stretched out, you'll notice it there. So as you're pushing it up, it's moving quite a lot. If you do it to a new chain, it's going to have a little bit of movement, but nowhere near as much as a worn out chain. So you probably have to try that with a new chain compared to a so-called worn out chain and see the difference. Once you've got a feel on how much more slack there is, then you'll realize at what stage your chain is just completely torched. So just keep an eye on the chain tension. Like I said, it's often a thing that people overlook. And then once their engine performance is going down, that's when they start to query the engine, but it's actually the chain. It's literally just sucking out the power. The problem is as the chain wears out, it starts to wear out your front and rear sprockets. And then we're going to see not just mechanical faults, but a few parts being damaged as well. So try and keep an eye on the chain tension when you can. Try and chain lube the chain and sprocket, after each session. Doesn't have to be too long, but give it maybe 2 or 3 rotations as you're spinning the wheel, just to give it a little bit of chain lube. After a session, after a day, you can clean the chain, whether that's in some fuel, just get the grease and the stones and the garbage out of there. That can always help. But like I said, just stay on top of your chain tension. O-rings a little bit less up and down compared to the standard chains. And like I said, for the cadet classes, it can just touch the front chain guard. It's on the looser side, but again, it's not going to drag out any power from the engine. Hope that little tip on our kart setup stuff has given you a bit of advice so you can try and have less mechanical faults, a little bit better engine performance for longer with your chain being nice and good. And if you need more information now on kart setup, then we'll have a dedicated setup program there for you. Otherwise, just keep tuning into our Kart Class podcast. We'll try and give you guys tips on setups, driving tips, and fitness and mindset. That's it for today. I appreciate you listening in. Cheers.